This week on Hooligan Nation, does KISS get themselves out of rock and roll hell with Creatures of the Night? You're damn right they do. And who should get most of the credit? Gene? Paul? Michael James Jackson? Vinnie Vincent? Or the bombastic drums of Eric Carr? Stay tuned, because you got
nothing to lose.
You wanted the best? Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS. Welcome back to Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
I'm Rocco.
Today we're joined by Victor Ruiz from the Signals from Mars podcast and the Victor M. Ruiz podcast. If you're interested in Victor's podcast or you want to know more about Victor, go to signalsfrommars.com. Victor, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up there. Just signalsfrommars.com, one-stop shopping place to catch up on everything related to either one of the podcasts.
Yep, and grab your Signals from Mars merchandise while you're there, because I'm about to order me my Signals from Mars t-shirt because I like his design. Someday when we get to be big boys, we might have t-shirts. Not yet. I think we'll start with like a yo-yo or something, maybe marbles. Victor, thank you for gracing us with your presence and your expertise. And please don't be so harsh on Creatures of the Night this week when we go over the album. We know how critical you are of that album.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
So before we get into that, you guys, well, really, either one of you got anything you want to add? Johnny, in your case, you got anything you want to add from The Elder?
No, I think I summed it up pretty good for the last album. Bottom line, I need the movie to back up the music. It would make it better for me.
Yeah, moving right along. Victor, you got any thoughts on The Elder you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, not great, not horrible. They've done worse. They've done a lot better. And as I kind of said to you guys off air, it was them trying to cater to an audience that was never going to follow them anyway. A shame, but is what it is. It got us to this album. It forced them to go in the direction of this album. So let's look at the positive.
Absolutely.
That is probably the single greatest positive that could come from The Elder.
Yes.
All right, news. You guys got anything for news?
I do. I have two bits of news here. If you're a KISS fan, you know that Gene Simmons is on tour with his band. And he's doing the interview tour right now too. So he's been on a couple different ones, and he was just on an ex-Mafia podcaster, Michael Francis, ex-Gambino Mafioso. And I also have some upcoming Gene concert dates starting in May 5th at Red Bank, Hackensack, New Jersey, Meridian Health Theater, Count Basie Center. May 6th, Wellmont Theater, Montclair, New Jersey. May 8th, Wind Creek Event Center, Bethlehem, PA. And then the last one I have listed, there's still more dates getting added. May 9th, the Paramount in Huntington, New York. There's also dates in April also already.
All right. The only thing I have to add to that, and I hate to correct you on air, but somebody will pull your Italian card, is
I've never claimed to be perfect.
Michael Francis is from the Colombo family, not the
Gambino that's right.
family.
That's right. I'm sorry.
And somebody could take you out for that.
No, I know that, and I just totally screwed it up. But yeah, you're right.
If somebody takes you out for that, I will have to have an AI co-host.
Well, hopefully they'll just stay. I stand corrected.
I don't know who else would put up with my shit week to week. So I got a really short little news thing I thought was interesting, and I really wanted, like, I didn't say anything to you about it, and I really wanted to save it for you and Victor. KISS on January 1st put out a social media post that pretty much said, "See you in 2025." And I did a little digging around the internet, YouTube, social media, and there are certain factions of the KISS Army that are going buck wild over this, thinking that they're coming out of retirement, that, like,
I ain't buying that.
my opinion on it is th this is a lot of nothing. They sold everything. The best that I can figure out is they sold everything to Pop House, and Pop House did nothing in 2024. There have been rumors for maybe the last 2 or 3 months that I've been hearing that 2025 is gonna be a big year for Pop House putting out a lot of KISS stuff.
Well, did you
I
say
think
Paul's not doing anything now?
what? Well, Paul's
Like
not
musically?
Paul's not playing the guitar, Paul's not doing anything musically, but, um, I think the post is in reference to Pop House putting things out, like, you know, um, the sound check, live records, and merchandise and stuff like that. But there's a certain faction of the KISS Army that is convinced that they're coming back. I just don't see it happening. So what either one of you or both of you, what's your take on that? Does anybody think they're coming out of retirement?
The only thing I'm saying is they're not putting that heavy shit back on again.
Yeah. I would think at the most, and I've said this for years, is seeing them on the cruise,
Yep.
but I don't foresee them putting all the makeup back on. I could see them going on the cruise, doing an acoustic
The
set,
cruise. Yeah.
doing maybe a live set, but not with them all up and, maybe makeup, but the rest is them in leather pants or, in t-shirts, stuff where they don't have to wear, 50 pounds worth of shit to get up on stage, basically.
Or also touring too. Like Gene, he said something funny to me. I know my voice sounds like ridiculous, but he said something funny to me about Gene. Gene just shows up on his band now with a guitar pick. Everything else is there.
Yeah. And he said that in interviews that he's making more money now than he was on the end of the road tour.
That's
because
crazy to even think of,
Yeah, he sends what they want beforehand, what instruments they want, what amps, what drum set, what food, what type of hotel they need to be put up in, what type of transport, everything.
It's pretty
They
wild.
just show up, they're taken, they play, and then they just make all the money.
Dude, I love Gene, but Gene would have to show me that in black and white for me to believe that. I just didn't. Gene is going to play the Paramount this year. You cannot tell me. I just have a hard time believing that he's going to make more money at the Paramount than he is at Madison Square Garden. I understand that it's much smaller. The whole operation is much smaller, but my brain just can't.
Expenses are probably a lot
Yeah,
different too.
Just
Think
can't
about
wrap myself around that.
how much crew is involved in KISS, truck
Yeah.
drivers, the union fees, Ticketmaster, all that stuff. Gene is probably making per show. He's making 6 figures a show easily.
I don't even. What's he playing to? He can't be playing to more than 3,000 people.
Right, but
I mean,
think about all right. So think about what we've just said. He's making, let's say he's making 200 grand, 300 grand per show. He's paying what to his band members? He's probably paying them 10 grand a week.
Yeah, they're not making big. They're making big money for them, but not.
Yeah. Think Brian Tichy, the drummer, Parsippany, New Jersey native, by the way, born in St. Clair's Hospital.
Nice.
he left the Dead Daisies to play with Gene. And the Dead Daisies are funded by a billionaire who is
Yeah.
Bowie,
Oh.
who is their guitarist.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He left that band to play with Gene. So he's making more money with Gene than he was with Dead Daisies, who's opening up shows for big name bands.
Yeah, but isn't it the Dead Daisies are more of an like a I guess the best way to call them is an all-star band. They come in and out of that band. So I'm just wondering if, because I've thought about that. Did he leave the Dead Daisies because Gene Simmons' touring band is a better paying gig, or did he leave the Dead Daisies because the Dead Daisies or Gene Simmons' band was going to be more active, let's say over the next year or so? I mean,
No, Dead Daisies, they tour all over the world. They're probably doing more touring than Gene's band, possibly, because they tour Europe a lot, they tour Australia a lot.
yeah, maybe they're just not like I don't see or hear them a lot around here.
True, but when you have somebody funding them the way that they're being funded, they're they're flying on private jets everywhere. He's he's probably in a less comfortable situation than Dead Daisies, but I'm assuming that he's making more money with Gene. Either that or that it's a dream spot that he wants to play Kiss songs, but he's a pretty in-demand player. He's played for Ozzy, he's played for Whitesnake, so he hasn't been playing with slouches over the years.
The only way, and this is a complete and total pipe dream, and I'm very aware of it, but the only way I see KISS coming back is for a residency at the Sphere. And opinions are that KISS isn't big enough to do a residency at the Sphere. But to me, in my brain, boy, that has endless possibilities. But the other thing is, this is not a knock on Paul Stanley, but he just can't sing anymore. Like,
right. And that's the Sphere thing is something that we talked on my show about over the summer. Yeah, that's why I think the cruise is what makes the most sense. You've got enough KISS diehards where, and I've always said this. I've said this when Paul's voice started to get shitty. They needed to do what the Bee Gees did. The Bee Gees initially would play one show per continent, play 5 shows a year. It would ensure that they were all great shows. KISS could have done that. KISS could have done 5 shows in the States, 5 shows in Europe, 5 shows in Australia, and 5 shows in Japan. They could have charged people an arm and a fucking leg.
Because it'd be in demand because it's so, yeah.
Yeah, people would have gone, and Paul's voice would have lasted longer as a result. They can do that with the cruise. They can do the cruise, and I floated this idea like 2-3 years ago. Do a cruise in the Mediterranean, do one in Japan, do one in the Caribbean like they already do 5 cruises a year.
I just don't see KISS doing anything. I think the cruises would be great, but Gene and Paul being who they are, I don't know if Gene and Paul are going to sign up to do cruises when they're not going to take the profits. They're going to be paid employees because Pop House owns everything, unless there's some things in the deal that we don't all know about, which there very well could be.
Probably. There's probably a way that if on future projects that they still make a certain percentage or they're, given a certain amount and Pop House gets the rest.
I just found it funny that at, roughly 75 years old, the KISS army is most definitely an army because they just can never get enough of KISS. Music that we're listening to other than Queensryche.
I am listening other than Queensryche. I love George Lynch. So I am back into Tooth and Nail and Under Lock and Key. I've been listening to riffs. Hopefully someday I'll be able to nail them all. But I got to get a Strat first. That's another story. But yeah, I'm listening to a little bit of Dokken.
I love that old Dokken. I did. Victor, you ever get a chance to interview George Lynch?
I have actually.
He comes across as a very good interview. Is that a real thing?
It depends if he's in the mood or not, because I've heard him be very like short and curt with people, and then with me, he kind of loosened up. I think I spoke to him like 20 minutes, half an hour, or whatever, and he was cool with me. It was around the time that he had released the documentary on Native American musicians, and he had put a band together called Electric Train or something like that. I don't remember, but it was neat. It was a trip to talk to him.
That hairband thing didn't help anybody. It didn't. It didn't age well, let's say.
Oh, the image, yes. Music, all depends, but that's with every genre. I think, and I've always said this, you can take disco, you can take hair metal, you can take grunge, or anything else. Usually, bands that come out of the first 2 to 3 waves are usually pretty solid, but everything after that sucks because it's the D wave copying the
Cheap
C wave.
copies.
Yeah. And they're the ones that ruin it for everyone. By the time we got to the Headbangers Ball of the early 90s, where it was just ballad after ballad after ballad, it absolutely sucked, where the genre was actually going in a different direction, but MTV was trying to continue to put the prettiest person on the
Yeah,
air.
remember Nelson? Was it Nelson? I think it was.
Yeah,
It was
Oh my
Nelson,
God.
yeah.
King
Yeah.
of the Hill. There were, I don't know how many bands that, you put their image aside. Some of their more rocking songs were good, but what you knew was the ballad,
Right.
and
It's true.
and that ballad was a third-rate version of a Warrant ballad, which was already a third-rate version of a Dokken ballad.
All right. So I did the George Lynch. What are you guys listening to?
In preparation for Creatures of the Night, I actually have been listening to Bryan Adams' version of War Machine and Rock and Roll Hell. I can't call myself a big Bryan Adams fan, but it's pretty good. It's interesting. It's a little lighter rock version of War Machine and Rock and Roll Hell. But even when when we get into the Creatures of the Night, Rock and Roll Hell comes across to me as a Bryan Adams song. Like, I'm sure it wasn't like that in 1982 when he was nobody. But if you listen to Rock and Roll Hell now and you listen to Bryan Adams, you can put the two songs together and you can see where he had an influence in the song. So it was interesting to me to hear him re-record the two songs, and he stays pretty true to the song. He changes a couple things a little bit here and there. But it's not a bad listen, and it's only two songs. Vic, you got anything?
Yeah. The one album that I've been listening to a lot, and it may be like kind of a swerve for listeners of this show. It's a band called Onto Others. They've released their third album called Never Neverland in 2024. It is more of a gothic metal type thing. So if you're into Typo Negative and stuff like that, it's kind of, it's funny because I would categorize a lot of the influence to be a mix of like Typo, Sisters of Mercy, Swedish bands like Sentenced, for example, that did this kind of stuff. And there are a few bands that have released stuff like this year, but this is the one that's kind of stood out to me. So they're
Typo, I think I would know a song. I know their song, but I wouldn't be able to identify it's them.
okay.
So I'm definitely curious to check it out because I told on one of the episodes I listened to Pop Evil and
Okay.
I really like them. So I'm trying to learn some new get into some new stuff too. So I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Well, no problem. I can send you lists of bands all the time, and if not, um, this is my my salesman hat I'm putting on now. On my Patreon, I post 2 videos a day, and they're from bands you've loved that are putting out new music, bands that you may not know that are along the lines of stuff that you love. And I always love turning people on to new music and having people tell me, my wife's going to kill me, but thanks to you, I bought a bunch of albums this weekend.
You guys ready to jump into Creatures of the Night?
Absolutely.
All right. So, Creatures of the Night was released October 25th, 1982. It was recorded at the record plant in Los Angeles, Record One in Los Angeles, and Media Sound in New York City. It's 38 minutes and 47 seconds in length. It was released by Casablanca Records, I believe.
Mercury.
I believe it's the last. It's the
Oh,
last record that was released on Casablanca. But it's produced by the most underrated, in my opinion, the most underrated KISS producer, Michael James Jackson.
I'll back you up on that. He's great. He doesn't get the love he deserves.
He definitely deserves more than he gets. Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. They released 3 singles from this album: "I Love It Loud," "Killer," and "Creatures of the Night." And we are in the MTV era. So they did make, I believe, 1 video. The video was "I Love It Loud." Ace does appear in the video. The best thing I can say about the "I Love It Loud" video is it was the beginning of the MTV era, so that was tough sledding for a lot of bands. And it's kind of funny because if you listen to interviews with Paul and Gene, they go out and they make these videos, and the MTV didn't want to touch them at the time. As far as the album artwork, uh, it's it's probably one of my favorite album covers, even though Ace is on the album cover and doesn't play on the record at all. And they do have a alternate cover, which is even funnier. In perfect KISS fashion, they have 2 covers to the same album, and the guitar players that appear on both covers, neither one of them played on the album. I would love to get an interview with Paul or Gene where they could explain to me why they did this, other than to sell the same record twice. Yeah, I love the cover of Creatures of the Night. I think it's a real cool concept. It is one of my favorite covers. That the Just the funny part is Ace doesn't play anywhere on the record, and I think that's pretty much been confirmed
yeah.
now. Like there's been rumors years and years and years of whether he played on some of it, or and there's rumors going around, but supposedly I think it's all been cleared up. Ace does not play anything on Creatures of the Night.
Well, if you said this, I apologize too. But the other cover has him without makeup too, right?
Yeah, it's Bruce Kulick though,
Right.
which is what makes it, at least makes it funny to me, is you put out 2 covers and both guitar players, neither one of them played on the record. Uh,
The order's also different on the other album.
is it?
Have the old CD. Yeah. Killer and Satan Sinner switched around on that. So it's Killer as the second song, after Creatures of the Night, and then Saint and Sinners the next to last song instead. And the mix is different,
Oh, I got it.
which
Okay.
I absolutely hated because one of the things that's always drawn me to Creatures is the bombastic sound of Eric Carr's drumming on
Yeah,
Oh
the
yeah.
I was telling him I fell in love with Eric all over again listening to this album.
yeah.
I love his drumming.
The tracks, the main tracks, it says on here, Creatures of the Night, I Love It Loud, and War Machine are all remixed so that the drums are very toned down.
Why would they do that?
To
No
sell the same record twice.
Yeah, it's
That's the answer. I mean, that's the answer to me. In some ways, it's genius. Kiss
yeah, but
fans,
you're creating good music to bad music. You're
but
pushing it to bad if you're doing
but
it, you know?
but you have to understand how Kiss fans are. They sell air guitar strings, and people buy them.
Yeah.
That's it. Kiss condoms. Who needs a Kiss condom? They successfully sold Kiss condoms. Hit the songs, Curly.
Okie dokie. Well, the first one, you already said the singles. We got I Love It Loud, Killer, and Creatures of the Night. So
Correct.
the first song is the same as the title, Creatures of the Night. Paul does the vocals. Adam Mitchell and Paul did the writing. Adam Mitchell is a Scottish songwriter. Famous song is Dancing Round and Round. It was a hit for Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, another episode that we're going to bring up Olivia Newton-John.
I couldn't wait to say that.
Oh.
For me, I'm just put a little thing on here. Great drum intro with cool guitar licks. Paul's vocals are killer on this song. Great arrangement. One of my favorite unison guitar parts of all time, where the two of them in the middle of the song start playing that. I love that.
Great record opener. Great Paul vocals, great guitars, and oh my God, the drums feel like they're going to come out and grab you by the throat. I can't imagine what it must have been like to be between 15 and 25 years old in 1982 after living through the 4 solo records, Dynasty, Unmasked, and then The Elder. And then for those that didn't check out, to go to the record store and buy this record. And at least for me, if I was that age, the first thing would have been the album cover. I would have said, "Oh my God, maybe they're back." And then when you drop the needle on that record and Creatures of the Night comes in, the feeling of relief that had to go over most Kiss fans' bodies of, "Oh my God, they actually did it. They're back." I mean, I just can't imagine what that feeling had to be after living through the circling the toilet and then all of a sudden coming back and that being the record opener. It had to be a sense of relief of, oh my God, they're done doing this. They weren't done doing it because they would chase things in the future,
Mhm.
but Creatures of the Night is very much a savior of Kiss, if you ask me, and it starts with that song.
Should have saved them financially too, but it didn't. But it should have.
No, well, because they went too far down
Yeah.
the toilet.
The song and the album. The album is my all-time favorite Kiss album. It is my all-time favorite album by any artist. And the title track slots in there as well. I've always said this. This was gifted to me by my grandmother right after my grandfather had passed away. My birthday is October 20th. She flew over from Spain shortly thereafter, and this was what she bought me. So there was that emotional connection from the start, but the lyrics to this song, remember when the clock strikes 12, the losers always win. Remember hearing that for the first time and always thinking, you know what? That means that we all get a chance to win at one point or another. It was something that the lyrics always kind of spoke to me, kind of connected with me, and always made me think, if so long as I don't give up, I can win at one point. So as cheesy as that may sound or not, this song has helped me through a lot of hard times, through a lot of good times. And to this day, my kids will throw this song on and say, "This is your all-time favorite song, isn't it?" Absolutely. So,
Nice.
love it.
It's not cheap, not cheesy. That's what music's all about, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let's move on to Saint and Sinner. Gene does the writing with Mike Japp. Mike Japp is a Welsh musician and a songwriter, guitar player of rock and blues. I probably listen to this once every other day. I love this song so much. Awesome bass lead into blend with drums. I love Gene's voice. It's one of my favorite songs with his voice on it. I love the transitions. All the transitions on this song are fantastic. And it's just a great blend with guitar blend. Like I said, it's one of my favorites on the album, one of my favorite Kiss songs, period.
Yeah, I'm simple. Love the drum beat. Love everything about the song. You're gonna hear that a lot in this record from me. I mean, from start to finish, I'm starting to think this is challenging Destroyer and Love Gun as records for me. I mean,
It's not without a doubt.
it really is. I can actually call Creatures of the Night, I think, an underrated Kiss record because it's so good and it was so needed at the time that it's probably underrated still.
And I said this to you earlier in the day, and Victor, you didn't hear this, but I thought I didn't. All the people that played on and all that stuff, I literally thought of it as an album that had Eric playing drums and Vinny playing guitar, and I'm like, that sound was unbelievable. But then there's a lot more layers to this, but I just it was a total change in sound of Kiss, but it shows how incredible this band is because all the different things they've been through, they even changed their sound with this album, and I think it was monumental in some way. I know I'm going in left.
Michael James Jackson.
Where the hell did you go? Oh, there you are. Okay.
But,
yeah.
But even with Michael James Jackson, Gene and Paul have a lot to do with that. And I'll give you the perfect example because I've had two members of this band tell me that they hired Michael James Jackson as the producer for their first album. It is Armored Saint because of the sound on Creatures. And when he produced the album, it sounded nothing like Creatures. And they were underwhelmed. And on a recent episode of Brian Slagle's podcast, he's the guy that started Metal Blade Records. The podcast is 100 songs that define heavy metal. He talks about the same thing, that they got the original mix back and they were like, well, where's the thunderous drum sound? Where's the big guitar sound? So I think that Gene and Paul don't get the credit for what they added to the production of this album as well. The other thing too, when I interviewed Robert Fleischman, he talked about the fact that with the first Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, they tried to get that same drum sound and spent hundreds of hours. I don't know how much of Chris List's money on it as well. And they couldn't reproduce it either. Having said that, Michael James Jackson worked with them on Lick It Up, worked with them behind the scenes on Animalize and Asylum
Killers
as well. And they were never able to get that same sound again for whatever reason.
Victor, before we go on to the next song, the third song, question for you. How much do you the drum sound, right? How much do you think is because it wasn't Eric Carr playing the drums? How much is that not being able to get that sound just Eric's talent? I'm not a drummer, that's why I'm curious.
Okay, so here's the thing. For example, it's funny, when I was setting up everything behind me, just going for KISS-Centric stuff, I'm like, do I put this demos CD that I have, which has the demo of Secretly Cruel with the ultra heavy drums like Creatures? So there are songs that they did demo with him that have that ultra heavy drums to it, but they decided to tone it down or go in another direction later on with it. I think Eric's playing has a lot to do with it. I think Eric was very hungry to finally show who he was, because let's remember, he came on during Unmasked. He didn't play on that. Anton Fig played on it. On The Elder, he didn't even play on all of that. They had Alan Schwartzberg play on a lot of that. So this was his chance to show what he could do. And he opens it up with, as you guys have mentioned, with that opening fill for Creatures of the Night, but
Yeah.
Saint and Sinners special as well. As you guys are talking, I'm thinking of of just the way that he's playing the toms during the chorus, and then in the in that like pre-solo section where he's doing this pattern on the ride cymbal, on the bell of the ride cymbal, before sliding back into like the main riff with the solo over it. His playing is just perfect on this.
Yeah, I agree.
It just works. It all works. It's just great.
The drums are the biggest star to me.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one's Keep Me Coming. Paul and Adam Mitchell. Adam Mitchell, it's the second one that he's on. Paul does the vocals, and I have awesome guitar riff intro. Paul's voice is in your face, and I love it. Great background harmony. And the constant riff is the star of the song. It's another one I freaking love the song.
Yeah, I got Just Another Good Rocking Song, love the riff, and of course, I'm going to say this over and over again, and I love the drums.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think we can actually put a mic drop that the drums carry this entire album.
Yeah.
For me, it does.
Yeah. So then, Victor, you got anything else you want to add to that?
Guitars just sound great on this. As you mentioned, the riff that starts it off, but then later when you get into the pre-chorus as well, just that just the way that the riff kind of just hangs there, how they're sustained notes and the drums are still going behind it. It's the complete
Get your blood flowing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the part is Sweet Little Innocent Girl making your way in this world. Yeah. Yeah. It's just awesome. It's just
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. The next one, it's Rock and Roll Hell. Gene does the vocals. Gene, Brian Adams, and Jim Valance is involved in the writing. Jim Valance is a Canadian songwriter and producer, best known as writing partner of Brian Adams. Wrote songs for Ozzy, Aerosmith, Alice Cooper, and a ton of other people. I love the drums and the bass carrying the beginning of the song. Drums and bass carrying and I love the clear drum sound and Gene's voice in the song.
Yeah, love the bass line. Love Gene's vocals. Sounds like a future Brian Adams song with no pop. Considering they were trying to get themselves out of rock and roll hell, this is a fitting song for the record. And it's one of those catchy Kiss songs that once it gets in your brain, it's not getting out for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the more I listen to it, the more I see the connection with Brian Adams.
Yeah, this song was originally Bachman Turner Overdrive, actually.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then so yeah, it was recorded by them, and then Gene had heard it, and if I remember correctly, Gene had to kissify it so that he could get his own writing credit on it. He added something to the song. I don't know if it's a verse or lyrics or what, but he did enough so that he could get a credit on it.
I'm
Uh,
glad he did. I love the tune.
So who originally wrote the song?
Brian Adams. It was Brian
Oh.
Adams, Jimmy Valiant. Ace ended up recording this song years later.
Yeah, to one of his
Virgin
compilation.
Volume 2, yeah. And he goes on to say that, had he have heard Creatures, he might not have left the band. Had he have heard the material that they were writing for the album, that he would have probably stayed because it was more in line with what he wanted to do.
All right, now we're in danger.
Yes.
Paul wrote it. Adam Mitchell with Adam Mitchell. He does the vocals on it, and I put hyper beginning. Drum and guitar blend is awesome. Drums are really pumping as usual on this album. I actually love the bridge. It's an extremely cool tune.
Yeah, I love the drums and the guitar. It sounds like an angry Paul Stanley singing, and I like it. It's
Yeah.
the hard rock, heavy metal version of Paul Stanley, and it's not a bad version at all.
Yeah, this song is great. Everything about it. I mean, I've played this to death. I mean, I could show you guys that vinyl album again, and it's scratched to all hell from all the times that I've played it.
Nice.
I mean, this is to me a perfect album side. I love it. Oh, and it to me, as we're talking about this, it showed the importance of what it was back in the day to flip an album over and have the lead off track on side 2 be just as important as the first song on side 1.
You gave me a nice transition. I was just going to say, because now side 2 starts. I Love It Loud.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I like this song. Let me just put Gene and Vinny wrote it together. Gene does the vocals. I like the song a lot. It's probably the most commercially known song on the album, and it's probably my 4th favorite. I like it a lot, but it's, you would think it'd be like right up there, but there's so many good songs on this album, it doesn't hit my top. But I put legendary song. Doesn't make my favorite list, but I like it. I love the MTV video, and I love what the lyrics are, and it's another rock, sort of like rock and roll anthem.
This is a joke to do this sometimes.
I know what you're going to say.
Literally my first sentence, the anthem that they continually chased. This to me is the reason why they put up with Vinny's bullshit as long as they did. Vinny is like cayenne pepper. Tastes like shit on its own, but as a spice, he rocked it. Vinny had a lot of involvement in both of those records, which is probably why Vinny got more difficult and more difficult. Because, there's an interview with Eric Carr where it says Vinny wanted to be a solo artist. He wanted to be the star.
He wanted to be in Malmsteen.
Yeah, he wanted to be that too.
So here's where, for the longest time, people have always said Vinny saved KISS, and why I will say Vinny did not save KISS. A lot of people want to throw shade at, say, Ozzy or Dave Mustaine or people like that have been the focal point of bands that have known to bring in great musicians. Ultimately, the vision, the person that at the end of the day says yes, no, do this, do that, are Paul and Gene. So for as good as Vinny is writing songs, if, as you guys are alluding to, if Vinny doesn't have a caretaker, Vinny doesn't know when to start, when to stop.
Absolutely.
And that's seen by, you can see that by what he did on the Invasion albums. You could see that with
100%.
Yeah, the Warrior demos that are up on all the streaming platforms now as well. He needs somebody to tell him when to start, when to stop, what's good, what isn't good. For as much as him thinking and saying, well, if it wasn't for I Love It Loud, this album would have never been great. I don't buy that.
Well, I don't buy that either.
Neither do
Uh,
I.
because I can
Y-
look at all of the non-Vinny songs, Creatures of the Night, Saint and Sinner,
Yep.
Keep Me Coming, Rock and Roll Hell, Danger, and War Machine.
Vinny helped save Kiss. I don't think he saved Kiss. Like
Right.
it wasn't just Vinny. But the other side of that and the other side of what you said is it's really hard, at least for me, to put myself in 1982 and have who the hell in their right mind would have any faith in Paul and Gene after Dynasty, Unmasked, and The Elder. Like,
Well, Unmasked and the Elder. I mean, Dynasty's a great album, dude.
no, but like we've been over
I
this.
don't. I know you love
It's
Dynasty too.
it's
I just.
not that,
I don't want that clumped into that. Take Shandy and the Elder. Just keep my Dynasty off to the
but
side.
but Dynasty is a completely different sounding disco
True.
infused
Very true.
fused. So before you start making comments that Dynasty is not a disco record, Dynasty
I said no. It is a. I like disco.
is a disco infused record. Yes, but somebody will make comments arguing with me that Dynasty isn't a disco record. It's already been done.
It's a disco album.
It's a disco infused rock record. They went down. By the time you get to Creatures, who has any faith in Paul and Gene doing the right thing? I don't think I would. So you infuse Vinny under a lot of control. Victor, if you haven't listened or watched to our episode on Gene's solo album,
Yeah, I've
it,
heard that one.
I make mention about 300 times in it that Gene needs a caretaker, he needs a custodian, he needs a parent of some kind. Well, it seems to me like Vinny really needed that. Like the supervision of Paul and Gene and Michael James Jackson, and for that matter, maybe Michael James Jackson supervising Paul and Gene a little bit probably didn't hurt either.
Mhm.
Like I think that all has to go in together, and Vinny is the cayenne pepper. He's a spice.
Well, he's new blood too. New blood freshens things up sometimes. Sometimes it could, it doesn't work, but you know,
But he was the spice. He wasn't the main ingredient. Kiss has always been and will always be, Paul and Gene are the two main ingredients.
Mhm.
Like they are the caretakers of the band, of the brand, of the music, for better or worse. But
Right.
to throw in Vinny, I think it was perfect timing. Like you said, it was new blood. It was he wanted to be a star, which ended up probably destroying Vinny, is that he wanted to be a star and he was never going to be a star in Kiss because, well, Paul and Gene had to be the stars. Let's not forget Vinny can sing. Shit, let's not forget Eric Carr can sing. Can anybody name the song that Vinny or Eric Carr sang on? Well, that's because it was the Paul and Gene show. We're not giving up one of our songs, so
yeah. But who
Eric Carr can
Did
sing.
Vinny sing on his Vinny Vincent Invasion?
He did. Not I don't think the first record. He sang on the second record. Am I
Yeah,
That
right?
he sings one. He sings on No Substitute. No, not No Substitute. He sings on Back on the Streets.
Yes.
He goes back and forth, which Back on the Streets was demoed to Kiss as well. And Ace Frehley actually recorded a version of that as well. So that song has been around.
I bet you Ace did a good version of it too. I've never heard that version.
I didn't know. I didn't know Vinny sang.
I have it on cassette somewhere.
Got next.
I Still Love You.
Oh my god.
Paul and Vinny wrote it. Paul's on vocals. I like to sing. Obviously, I can't now, but I like to sing, so I love this song. Acoustic guitar intro is great. It's a well written song. Like I said, I love singing it. Drums and bass are extremely clear, good clarity on the bass and drums, and it's a perfect song for Paul.
Victor, you can go next because I this is a troubling song for me.
I know why.
This song for me, I'm not a big ballad guy. But this was like one of the first ballads that I've actually enjoyed. There's so much to this song that I've learned to love over the years, just the different intricacies of the song, just how it's put together with Eric playing bass on it as well, and so on and so forth. I think it slots in well. Right here after I Love It Loud. It's in the perfect spot because you go from a high, this kind of brings you down a little, and then you jump up to another high with the next track.
Yeah, look, it's a beautiful song. It is a beautiful song. I will give it that. It's maybe, ooh, I almost said something I would have regretted. It's maybe the second or third best Kiss ballad of all time, maybe. Um, but I hate it anyway, and I hate it, and I hate it simply because in the 80s, it was in every live set list, and it just got overplayed to me. It was it,
He had the spotlight on him in the center of the crowd, and
yes,
he
and
flew
the
to it.
rest of the band pretty much would leave the stage. Eric stayed out there to play drums, but it was really it was almost like Paul's version of Beth is how it was portrayed, at least to me, live. And because of that, for whatever reason, I have no idea, but because of that, I just hated it. I mean, I re-listened to it in the last couple weeks a couple times. It is a beautiful song. It's a great song, but I could do without it just for some reason.
All right, that brings us to Killer is the next song. Gene and Vinny wrote it. Gene does the vocals. Great intro riff. Gene's voice is really cool, and I really dig the chorus of it.
I cannot do without this song. This is a great song. It's a great song. Gene is right where he belongs, doing what he does the best, I think, in this song. It's a prototypical Gene Simmons demonic song.
Love is a gun, love is a blade. She's a killer.
Yep.
Yeah, great lyrics.
Not gonna repeat the next part because you
I already had an F bomb. He's got to edit out.
yeah, YouTube wouldn't take kind to it and would show what kind of a misogynistic person Gene can be with his certain lyrics during the 80s that he used.
They're cool lyrics, though. They are cool lyrics.
He's not making it into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, that's for sure.
I'm 93 and you're 16.
Yeah. Living in Sin and the Holiday Inn.
Yeah. Hot knives through butters, log fireplaces, and the word biatch comes up a few times here and there in lyrics as well. So
yes.
Let me put my log in your fireplace. Boy, that I can't wait to get to that song. Oh, we're gonna have so much fun.
All right, so we are at song number 9. Gene, Brian Adams, and Jim Valance did the writing. Gene does the vocals, and War Machine is one of my all-time favorites in my top 10. Go ahead, Ant. How many I have in my top 10?
Oh
Anyway,
well, you got at least 35 songs in your top 10. So
cool in, cool intro riff with a build up to the drum beat. Great, it's a great song. I freaking love the song.
yeah, this song proves to me that Creatures of the Night was a record dominated by the Demon. Just an evil heavy metal song with tasteful guitars. It's it to me, War Machine is like the rest of Creatures of the Night. It's probably as close to perfection as Kiss ever put out as a body of work.
Yeah. War Machine, great track. I remember my brother who had long gotten off the Kiss train at this point in time and hated everything that they had done post Love Gun, except for Alive 2. Hated the solo albums, hated Dynasty, Unmasked, laughed when the Elder came out. I got this. And he said, wow, this is actually a good album. Had they have released this instead of all the other stuff they did in the meantime, I would have still been a fan. And War Machine has always been one that he's always really liked. Always liked this song since the beginning. The riff I thought was always really cool, and just great, great ending. Great song. Great way to end the album and make you want to flip it over and start the whole thing over again.
Yep. No stinkers
Oh,
anywhere. Nothing is recorded that didn't need to be recorded. The songs were all the right lengths. I mean, all the prior complaints that a lot of Kiss fans have, there are none of them here. There's no bad production. There's no unneeded songs. There's no, there's no bongos in the middle of a guitar solo. There's none of that crazy stuff. Like I think you probably have to go back to Rock and Roll Over to get a comparison of, hey, we're just gonna plug in and we're just gonna be Kiss.
You
That's
know,
it.
I give you a scenario that probably happened to a lot of Kiss fans back then. Give us like us that maybe 10 years older. Like you, okay, I'm done. The Elder, I'm done with this, and they're done with Kiss. And then all of a sudden they're somewhere and they hear a song off of Creatures. Like, that's a good tune. Who is that? It's Kiss. Get the hell out of here. Are you kidding me? And they listen to the album and you got them back again.
Hey, Kiss Army, we work hard on this podcast and try to give you the best content possible. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Also, the podcast is now on all the podcast platforms. So please like and follow us there and give us some 5-star reviews. It really helps us out.
And while you're there, please let us know if there's any Kiss related subjects that you would like us to cover in the future episodes.
It's very unfortunate that no one came out to see the Creatures of the Night stage show, but it was a great stage show. It is for I'll put pictures or video up somewhere in here. Um but it's the one where the drums are a tank. It's everything about this, their costumes, their stage show, the record, they did everything perfect. The only bad thing about it was nobody came out. I mean, there's story after story about being in a 20,000 seat arena and there being 2,000 people there.
right.
But and that's just that they did the crime, so they had to do the time. Because after the Elder and everything else, I'm guessing that the majority of the Kiss Army didn't even listen to Creatures of the Night until after Lick It Up came out, and they took the makeup off and that interested people. And then I think people went back to Creatures of the Night. I think a lot of KISS fans missed that touring window because they were done with the band. But hey, in KISS's defense, they went all out from start to finish, in my opinion, on this record. They produced a great record with great songwriting, with great production. And then they went out on tour. They had a great stage show. They changed the costumes, and they definitely went to a meaner, cleaner, more heavy metal look. Just about everything they did that has to do with
It
Creatures of
was
the Night was a win for me.
it was raw, like Love Gun. It was a different style, but it was raw.
Unfortunately, they just had to pay the price for venturing the places that they ventured.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was 8, so I don't think I was going to Creatures of the Night show anyway. But Vic, you got anything on stage show?
Yeah, just John, you mentioned the show. The one that most people turn to is the one from Brazil.
Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Buenos Aires. Oh, okay.
It's the old Maracanã Stadium, which held at that point like 125,000 people. And it was the last show on that date. And much to what Tony has already said, it was too little too late for people. I mean, you had bands like Van Halen coming along and Rush and some of the others that I mentioned before. You had Motley Crue, who was opening on part of this tour. There were other things that were happening, and for a lot of people, KISS was old hat at this time. You know, young kids weren't listening to KISS. I mean, we were, because we were diehards, but kids started listening to other bands. You know, we keep circling back to the same point. It seems like too little too late.
Right.
For a lot of this. It's unfortunate, but it is. And it goes to show the album didn't get the gold status until 94. So that's after Revenge is released. That's a year after Alive 3 comes out. So some people were hearing Creatures of the Night and some of these other songs maybe for the first time on Alive 3 and saying, oh shit, I got to check this album out. You know, so there's a lot of things, and it's not that they didn't try to promote the album, because every album after Creatures, they kept saying, oh, it's a mix between Destroyer and Creatures. It's a mix between Destroyer and Creatures. And no album that's come out has ever come close to being as good as Creatures, in my opinion. For as good as Lick It Up is, for as good as for some people that Revenge is, I don't think that there's another album that start to finish is as strong as Creatures, in my opinion. And that's not to say that they haven't released good albums since, because I think Lick It Up is a very strong album. But I don't think Animalize, Asylum, Crazy Nights, or Hot in the Shade, and even Revenge, to me, don't come close to either Lick It Up or Creatures, as much as I like stuff off of all those albums.
But that's what's beautiful about this band, and it was beautiful about the Beatles back in the day. Is there's something for everybody.
Yeah, that I can
for that genre and for that group of people, something for everybody. And for KISS, I mean, me and him agree on a lot of songs, but then all of a sudden there's a song that he digs that, like, he likes I Can't Stand the Rain from Peter Criss. I'm not a big fan of it.
Right.
But that's a good thing, because you got forever. I would, like, for a long time, I love Dynasty, and I would constantly get people throwing shade about Dynasty. But if you go through every single song, Hard Times is to me the most underrated song that KISS made with Ace.
That side 2 of Dynasty, I would put up against a lot of their other albums, and personally, the word Love Gun has gotten thrown around quite a bit on this episode and on your podcast. I would take Dynasty over Love Gun.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I don't deny it. Dynasty is still my favorite album. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hard Times, Save Your Love, X-Ray Eyes, Charisma.
Oh.
Guys, I
Guys,
think the cover off of that is 2000 Man and then she kissed me.
the streets lights just came on. My mom is calling me home for dinner. I can't.
That's the beauty of this band. You're supposed to have different things you
Look,
like.
we're in complete
Something
agreement.
for everybody.
Creatures of the Night is the most complete Kiss album. I will give you that every day of the week. It is more of a complete Kiss album than Destroyer. It's more of a complete Kiss album than Love Gun. For that matter, it's more of a complete Kiss album than the first Kiss album. But Dynasty better than Love Gun? Nah, I mean, not to me.
But that's the beauty of this band. You're not neither one of you are wrong.
Love Gun, Shock Me, and Hooligan. I would put those three songs and what am I leaving out? But I would put those three songs up against
Baby Driver? No, Baby Driver's not on
no.
that. No.
I would put those three songs up against any three songs on Dynasty, and I would venture to say they're better. I don't dislike Dynasty at all. I just I can't go that far.
Personally, from my personal opinion, and I know I have a funky, weird taste when it comes to music, I will admit that, but I will take any of the three Ace songs off of Dynasty over Shock Me. And I love Shock Me, but those other songs speak more to me than well, specifically Save Your Love and Hard Times over Shock Me.
Do you agree Hard Times is like the like a lost song because it was labeled the disco album? Hard
Yes.
Times doesn't get enough love.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I would argue the same thing of Dark Light.
I wasn't feeling that as much.
I would argue the same thing for Dark Light. Look, and I don't know, maybe Hard Times over Shock Me. I might.
I can't because Shock Me is what made me want to play guitar.
It would be close, I think. It would be close, but record for record, nah, not for me. But like, look, when I answer comments on YouTube, I say this all the time. This is the cool thing about Kiss fans. Like you can get Kiss fans that come from so many different perspectives. It's it's like we're gonna put out the Elder episode, and I promise you, somebody makes the comment, "The Elder is my favorite record."
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you know what? Victor said the perfect thing. The music spoke to him. It may not speak to you in certain ways, but it spoke to him that way. So certain things speak to you, like, you know what I mean? So music is something that touches you. And if it touches you a certain way, Shock Me made me want to play guitar. When I was a little kid, I saw Ace play it live and I'm like, oh my God, I want to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's those, it hits you a certain way.
For some people, The Elder was their first album.
I'm not sure that I'm going to keep this in the final version of this, but I just want you to know that The Elder did touch me.
For some people, there are people that I know that Crazy Nights is their first Kiss album, and it's their favorite as a result. And I absolutely hate that album. I hate that more than I hate The Elder, personally.
Nah, see, I like Crazy Nights.
Well, I can
it's it's different for everybody, but
just from listening to your podcast and just from knowing what I know, I can understand why Crazy Nights would be your least favorite.
You lean heavier than for the most part.
It's Kiss trying to be, and I think I can say this, that they have admitted this, that's Kiss trying to be Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Because Bon Jovi was the cat's ass at the time.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, there's songs on on Crazy Nights that I like, but I also know that it's a guilty pleasure kind of thing. I love the song Crazy Nights. I love the song. it is the most overproduced, way too polished, pop metal, pop whatever you want to call it, hair metal, whatever label you want to
Victor
put
looks
it.
like he's getting a little sick right there.
You could put 300 labels on that record and they would all fit. I mean, to the outfits and the stage show and everything. And why are we doing this? You have a set list to go on to.
All right. So we got Creatures. Start out with Creatures. The Night, Calling Dr. Love, then Detroit Rock City, Cold Gin, guitar solo, I Want You, Firehouse, I Love It Loud, another guitar solo, then a drum solo, then War Machine, then Love Gun, then a bass solo, then God of Thunder, then I Still Love You, then Black Diamond, came out for an encore for Strutter, and finished it up with Rock and Roll All Night.
What do you guys notice there?
Well,
no Detroit Rock City, right?
No, it's there.
It's there. Okay.
That was the third one.
Okay.
No, what do you guys? There's something that immediately jumped out to me.
It's heavy on songs from this album, isn't it?
Well, that, but it's non-existent Dynasty, Unmasked, and The Elder. Non-existent. Now, it like we have another 40 years of history to look back on, and
Good catch, actually. I didn't catch that when I went.
I'm not sure that they ever played anything from The Elder live unless it was like, an acoustic show or the Kiss cruises. It's popular there, but Unmasked and Dynasty, there's not even a hint of either one. It seems to me like they were so trying to separate themselves from that time, and it jumps out. It jumps out in a lot of ways to me. It jumps out in the costumes for that tour. It jumps out in the stage show. If you look at the Dynasty stage show and then you look at Creatures of the Night stage show, I love Dynasty stage show, but it's nothing near that. The costumes are nothing near that. It's like they were trying to reinvent themselves as a hard rock heavy metal band.
I think it's a shame because they clumped Dynasty with that, and Dynasty to me stands on its own compared to Unmasked.
Yeah, to your point, I'm looking at the Unmasked tour, and the Unmasked tour, which because they didn't tour with the Elder. The only time that they played songs off of the Elder was on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, and a few other things similar to that. On Friday, they played The Oath and I. Unmasked tour, they did play Talk to Me, Is That You, 2000 Man, I Was Made for Loving You, and Shandy, and You're All That I Want at one show.
Yep.
Yeah, as you're saying, all that's gone by the time.
And look, you got to give them credit. They successfully reinvented themselves. And then if you go in from there to Lick It Up, even the Animalize, they're on the right track, and then they start chasing fads again.
Mm.
And that's where that power pop hair metal thing, they did this throughout their career. All right, guys, you guys got anything else? I think we had 3 of us on here, and I think we all agree Creatures of the Night is perfect.
Yeah. I agree.
The only thing that I would add is that I was kind of underwhelmed with the material that was added to the 40th anniversary box set. Because a lot of the songs that are on here are, for example, I Still Love You, take 1, take 2. It's like that with a lot of songs where had they have given me one good demo of each of these, I don't need a disc 5 of
all the different takes.
Of all the different takes, because I have a lot of these takes on CD and on cassette and whatnot. And if there was one really good take of it with good vocals and whatnot, all right, I'm done. There's the one Vinny song, Betrayed, which is another Warrior demo. Where it sounds just slightly better than the old bootleg version that I have. They could have cleaned it up a little better and made it. I don't want it to sound exactly as good as Creatures, but I think they could have done a little better job of being selective with what they gave us for that. Now the box set is great with
The jam stuff. I like the
Yeah.
jam. The jam stuff. I like a lot.
Yeah. There's some stuff that I wish, they would have cut back on, and they could have given us there's bootlegs. There's a bootleg from LA which is just great. They gave us a show from Rockford, Illinois, which is good. But that LA show, I always felt that it had like a certain energy, like it was Kiss's new home. They were, it seemed like they were out to prove something of that show. I don't know if there just isn't a good version of that out there, and that's why the Rockford show maybe is what they gave us. Maybe that Rockford show was recorded for radio. I don't know. But yeah, that's the only thing. I was super hyped to get this. And then after hearing, Betrayed and a few other things on the streaming platforms, I was like, wow, I can't wait to hear what else they've dug up. And I was like, oh, I have all this already.
Yeah, and how many Kiss? I mean, Kiss fans would probably take a whole corner of the market on bootleg stuff that they got.
Right. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, see, my problem is I like things to sound clean, crisp, and complete. So a lot of the bootleg demo stuff bothers me because it's underproduced.
but
I'm
that
I'm I'm a snob when it comes to that, I guess.
that also has to do with the fact that you're a clean, crisp, and complete guy as well.
Yeah, I try.
Oh, that was a very nice thing to say, Victor.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know what? I think we should end on that because
Yeah.
I might
That's a mic drop right there.
I have a feeling that might go in the trailer for this too. Right.
He is a mad scientist with that. So
There you go.
Well, I do my best.
good night,
All right,
guys.
Vic.
Good to lose you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. As always, you can come back here anytime you want. And if you don't call me about coming back on here, I'll probably call you.
Yeah, that's fine. Whenever you guys want me to come back, I'm more than happy to do so.
All right, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And before we get out of here, don't forget, folks, signalsfrommars.com and the Victor M. Ruiz podcast. Support him. And thank you all for coming out and supporting us. And don't forget, if it's too loud, you are too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.